Hi, Pat the Podcast Editor here. Now, recently, it's been hard to find a corner of the internet not talking about ChatGPT, or any other AI software for that matter. From automating mundane tasks to making data-driven decisions, AI is quickly becoming a powerful tool in the business world. Well, in today's episode, the boys take a deep dive into the world of artificial intelligence. And we'll hear about Dan's outlook on the new technology.
This is negative for people that won't embrace change. I think people that see this technology as a competitor to what they do, those people actually have more opportunity than before.
And Lloyd explains why all this new technology is making him question our own reality.
Obviously, people are going to think I'm absolutely mental saying this in public. This is why I think we might actually be living in a simulation.
Now, before we dive in, we'd like to take a second to thank our sponsors, Adobe Express. Adobe Express allows you to quickly and easily create standout social graphics, logos, flyers, and more on web and mobile. Click the link in the description to try Adobe Express today. Right, let's get stuck in. This is episode 130 of the Business Anchors podcast.
We're just a couple of business anchors. Welcome to the Business Anchors podcast. This jingle is slightly too long. This jingle is slightly too long.
So Dan, what scary AI tools have you discovered that will change our lives?
Scary was kind of the hooky title. They're not actually going to scare people, but they are.
I was going to say, could have saved it for the Halloween episode, Dan. Scariest.
They are impressive, maybe, is a better word.
Right.
But I feel like I do feel a bit bad because I feel like people are starting to get annoyed with everyone talking about some of the more common AI tools like ChatGPT. Everyone's just constantly talking about them. I'm starting to get annoyed with seeing all these posts about ChatGPT and stuff. But for those that maybe don't spend as much time on social media as us, this is going to be an incredibly insightful, mind-blowing episode. Because when I discovered these tools, that's how I felt. So hopefully Anchors will.
I was going to say, it isn't the reason everyone's talking about it because it's going to change the world drastically in so many different ways.
Yeah.
That's what I know. People are getting annoyed about people talking about it, but I do think it is, well, in my eyes and what I've been reading and looking into, it is to the scale of kind of like when the internet got introduced.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, there's been a few moments in my sort of history that I felt like, well, maybe not even at the time, but on reflection, like, wow, that is an incredible advance in technology. Like when I guess smartphones probably was like the first iPhone that you'd think like, oh, a smartphone that's got a camera and can do like, that was a huge shift, advance in technology. I'm trying to think what other things have happened. I just had one in my head.
When the wheel was invented?
When the wheel was invented.
Yeah. Oh, the good old days. Remember when we just had to walk everywhere?
Yeah.
Before that.
And I guess the internet was the one before that, was like the biggest one.
And you see videos, I don't know if you've seen the old clips of when like TV show hosts first had like an email address. They're like, oh, instead of post, we got this. And they didn't even know how to say at. The at symbol. Like, is it? I think that's also. Or that's. And they didn't know how to say it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of where we are now, where the wider public really don't have a good understanding of what's going on with it, and to an extent, obviously, we're not experts. But I really do think the way it's going, it's going to affect everything we do, just like the internet does now.
I did actually, interesting, it's hit more wider mainstream. I did hear on Radio 1 the other day them talking about ChatGPT.
Really?
Which is like, just goes to show how...
You find with these big things, though, first they talk about it like in an entertaining, funny way. Like, God, have you heard there's this funny thing where you can write a love poem to your partner on it? And it's like, obviously, these like cringy ways you can use it that are like funny little tricks.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously the big impact is going to come from other uses.
When you start to hear, and we're about to go into this now, some of the ways this technology can be used, like you can use this for free now, it is mind-boggling. It really is. And how the amount of time you can save by using some of these technologies is insane. So
can I quickly get into I truly think that this is going to progress humanity.
That's a big statement, Lloyd.
Yes, I do. I honestly do, in lots of different ways. But But I think there's going to be some really big challenges for humanity.
Yes.
I think it's that big. Like some of these AI tools that are coming out now, and obviously these are the ones that already exist. So in the next 1 to 5 years, it's going to go to the next level. They're literally tools are coming out that are removing the need for things that people have based their whole identity on and have worked on for years to get to the level of sort of whatever they can do. So whether that's writing or, music, art, design, and lots of different things. So people have in the last decade have been trying to honing their craft, and these AI tools are coming along that mean people are able to do what they've been basing their whole identity on for a decade within a couple of minutes.
A positive spin on that, though, I think this is negative for people that won't embrace change. I think people that see this technology as scary, well, not scary, but like as a competitor to what they do, I think that is not the right mindset to be. The people that embrace this and see how they can utilize this technology to enhance their careers and their knowledge and their expertise, those people actually have more opportunity than before. So, yeah, I think
people with the most success are the people that usually get in ahead of the curve. Yeah. And if you're fighting against something and not having an open mind, it's very unlikely you're going to be there. I do think just like conversations around the internet, though, at first, and around Web 2.0 with social media and stuff, there's people that are like, this is absolutely amazing. And there's people that change is not good. This is destroying humanity. Every argument in the history of humanity, neither of those people have ever been right. Yeah. If you think looking back, it's always somewhere in the middle and there's grey areas, and somewhere on that line is actually where it is. So I think be open-minded and don't go to one of those poles of like, this is the worst thing ever or this is the best thing ever and we're all going to live in paradise.
I remember seeing clips from old USA chat shows where the internet was rising and the chat show hosts were like taking the piss, saying that it's like where creepy dudes hang out for online dating. And now look at it, like it literally runs our whole world. Yeah.
Those dudes are still there though.
Yes, they are. Yeah. So, right, let's get into it. There's a number of different tools we're going to be talking about. And the first one is the one that you've probably heard of, and it's ChatGPT. So I want to get into a bit of background about what this tool is, how you can use it, and some use cases. And I've actually got a specific example of how I used it to come up with a promotional piece of copy for this specific podcast. But like Lloyd said, we're not like AI experts or anything. I think there's lots of experts popping up, but the way I see, I'll give you the actual definition in a minute, which I still don't understand half the words that Wikipedia said, but my definition of ChatGPT is like Google on steroids. You type in a prompt similar to Google for something and it comes back with an answer. That's the simplest way to think about it, but it's incredibly intelligent, and it comes back with an answer that's written like a human.
Interesting fact. Well, it might be interesting. I sold all my shares in Alphabet, Google's parent company, a couple of weeks ago when this came out, because I do think for the first time, something is going to challenge Google and other people could become better search.
What are you going to do with the £5?
I think I'm probably going to get a couple of Happy Meals later. Yeah. Oh, yeah, by the way, when I say I sold my shares, I'm not this multi-millionaire that's like, 300 grand, sell those shares.
Sell now, Lloyd.
Yeah. I think
buy low, sell high.
I think it was in the hundreds rather than thousands.
Yeah, sorry.
Just so you know.
Do you sound like you're some like big time investor?
No, very small time. In every way.
So let me give you the definition that is the Wikipedia version. ChatGPT is a large language model chatbot developed by OpenAI based on GPT 3.5. It has remarkable ability to interact in conversational dialogue, form, and provide responses that can appear surprisingly human.
Thousands of car crashes across the UK as people fall asleep listening to Business Anchors.
But no, like I said, my definition of it is it's Google on steroids. And the interesting thing is it's completely free currently. So you can try this now. Just Google ChatGPT and try it. So I want to give you some use case examples of how you, the listeners, could use this, specifically focused on marketing, because that's what we're here for. And then I want to give you an example of what it's done for a promotional thing for this podcast.
Okay.
So here's some really cool things that I've found that it can do that could help you. So first of all, it can summarize marketing books for you. So you can type in something like this: give me a 2-minute summary of insert book title in bullet point form. And it will take all of the information from that book and summarize it in bullet points. So you can quickly get the key takeaways from any marketing book or business book, whatever. Another thing that I find it really useful for is market research. So something that we do a lot of when we're working with new clients in different industries is trying to understand what are like the key players in a certain industry doing on social and that kind of thing. So you have to spend time finding all their social media accounts, clicking on them, getting a list and that kind of thing, and sharing it with your team. Whereas what you can do is type in something like, write a list of the top 10 beauty brands in the UK and include their website URL, Instagram URL, TikTok URL, Facebook URL, whatever. So you can come up with a list of all of the links to their social media accounts and easily.
Can I make a quick comment on that? I believe currently ChatGPT is based on data acquired
prior to
last year.
I think it's,
So currently with this tool, not everything will be up to date to today. So if you're doing market research and it's really vital that you find out the top beauty brands this week on Instagram, there's still limitations. I'm sure soon there won't be, but that's currently where
there is paid for tools that you can use that we're going to go through later that have up to date data.
Yeah,
and I think ChatGPT 4 is about to be released. That's going to have much more up to date data.
Crazily more powerful, isn't it?
Yeah,
and I think we'll just basically do everything you want to do in your life for you.
Yeah. Another thing, like a really easy use case that I found. You know, sometimes when you want an answer to a question and you just go to Google and you type, how do you mow your lawn correctly? I'm thinking something that you would type because you're obsessed with gardening. And it would come up with a whole loads of responses, and they're basically ranked, first of all, based on who's paid for ads at the top, then based on who's most effectively, if it's effectively SEO optimized their page, rather than specifically what's the best results for you, right? Now, what you can do with ChatGPT is you can ask it a question like to do with a marketing technique, like, what is SEO? And please provide the top 10 actionable tips to implement SEO on my website. And it will utilize all of that data and come back with a really like a short list of things that you can do quickly and easily. So you can get quick answers rather than sifting through the responses that you get from Google.
Something with this that will help me. I usually do lots of research on things and read things and watch videos and listen to podcasts and things. And I'm an ideas man, as you know, Dan. So I've got all these great ideas, but then sometimes bringing it all together and kind of being like, okay, so where do we start? Is both in work and at home for projects is something I find challenging. So, for example, this year, obviously, the veg garden. Haven't mentioned it for a while, guys, because it's been winter. But I'm making plans and what to do with that. And I think this kind of thing, where you can ask it to give you step-by-step steps to do a certain thing, I think is really useful for my brain to be like, I've read about all this stuff, but where do I actually start? And can I just have 5 steps to what do I need to do now and what do I do next? I think is useful for my brain. I don't know if other people that would be useful for, but that's something I'm going to use it for.
Yeah, interesting.
So veg will be very successful this year thanks to AI.
Something else that I think I've probably been using it for the most is to write copy for things. Like copy for social media posts, copy for blogs. You can prompt it, like for example, write copy for a LinkedIn post teaching people about ChatGPT. Now, this is the most basic form of prompt. There's tons of really useful resources out there that you can find where it goes way more advanced. So, for example, this is how crazy it can get. You could say to it, write copy for a LinkedIn post teaching people about ChatGPT in the style of a Snoop Dogg rap. And I've seen people giving examples of this. It will literally come back with that in the style of the kind of language that Snoop Dogg would use. And
does it start with 1, 2, 3 into the foul?
Something like that, yeah.
Good.
And even another, going a bit slightly more advanced, I've seen examples of how you can write sales copy. And if you do your research and understand certain models to do with how to write effective sales copy, I can't think of the names of them now, but like John Smith's a really good model to write sales copy. You could say to it, write me sales copy to do with this in the style of using John Smith's 3-step formula copy.
Can I ask you a question? Your opinion. So with this, so you've mentioned copy for social posts and you've mentioned sales copy using it. Do you think in the next couple of years, people are going to value the fact that you're using AI to write your copy and think, oh, that's really cool, and value that you're using AI for this sales process to allow you to do more efficient and better work? Or do you think people will be unfollowing your profiles because they're like, Dan's not actually writing some of these posts? And do you think they'll be like, well, I'm not paying for this work because I've heard this company is using AI rather than people?
Great question. I think, first of all, something to really clear up is I would not recommend just copy and pasting what it spits out onto whatever your blog or your social content. Because what you'll find is some people give an example of this, some of the responses seem similar to other people's. If you type in a similar prompt to someone else, what comes back can be similar.
If two people write the same prompt, it's likely to be the same or extremely similar.
Yeah. So the opportunity here is to utilize this as a tool, as a starting point to create the copy you want to create. So for example, something I found it super useful for is whenever I'm writing a post that's educational, teaching someone how to do something, you can sort of ask ChatGPT for some prompts and what kind of, like you said about the steps.
Yeah.
If you were to start creating video on your mobile phone from scratch and you didn't have much experience, what are the kind of initial steps you'd start with? It can give you a number of steps, like 10 steps. Then you can look at those and then rewrite that in your own words, pick out the bits that you think were good advice, leave the bits there that aren't good advice, and edit what it gives back to you rather than just copy and paste.
Almost a way to get you to a first draft of something.
Yes.
And then think, okay, what do I keep? What do I get rid of? How do I make this better by using my human brain and my human expertise and knowledge of the specifics and niche that this AI tool doesn't necessarily know.
Exactly.
The fact that Tim, who I'm writing this for, says this weird word
exactly
that they don't know, or
it needs to be in the tone of voice of the brand, or if it's you posting it, you.
Yeah.
So that's why I see the opportunity. I do think there's going to be some initial pushback to do with copywriters, because now people understand how incredibly effective this technology is. If you think you're paying a copywriter, how do you know if they haven't just done it in there and then spent 2 minutes rewriting it?
But I guess that was my question. I think some people will value that. Oh, by the way, I use AI tools and I do it in half the time, so it's a slightly decreased price from what I used to charge.
Yeah, that's the piece though. Or, are you decreasing your price to combat that?
And I think this is where over the next few years there's going to be battles in lots of industries of people either secretly using AI and not being open and selling work and trying to maximize profits and not putting in the time. And you could argue, well, that's fine. They're using clever ways to do better standards of work. Or you could argue, well, they're being lazy and they're deceiving people. I think that this is going to be a real interesting landscape for the next couple of years to work out how in different industries this is going to work.
I always like to look at the opportunity rather than the negative side of this. I think this is going to create even more of an opportunity for brilliant copywriters. I think the vanilla middle of the road copywriters it's not going to be good for, but the really good ones that can create really compelling, unique copy that's really speaks in the tone of voice of a brand or a person, they're the ones that are really going to thrive with this, because it's going to excel the speed that they can write copy, but then they can still tailor it to really stand out.
I think with that, I think you've got to take criticisms of these AI tools with a pinch of salt, because a lot of people are coming from a very defensive position, thinking basically this AI can write copy as good as I can, so I'm out of a job.
Yes.
And so you have to understand people are coming from a very emotional place with their criticism of these tools. Imagine something comes out and you're thinking, I won't be able to pay my mortgage next year.
Yes.
Because people won't value the work
Makes
that
complete
I've
sense.
been, it's understandable that people's criticisms will come from that emotional place.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think we've really got to take it with a pinch of salt.
I've noticed this from recently. I've been posting a lot about ChatGPT because it's something that everyone's talking about and it's exciting. And I've had a number of copywriters commenting on my post saying, this is terrible. It's just going to be duplicate content everywhere and it's going to be terrible. Do not just copy and paste it. You're going to really see negative results. And it's like this technology literally just got into the mainstream. So you have no idea if that's going to be the case or not. But it's clear that you're reacting emotionally because you're scared your job's going to be taken. But
we've got to keep an open mind from both sides.
Yeah. Just to give you a few more use cases, and I want to give you an example of how we used it, then some other AI tools. So another thing, you can help it come up with ideas for names of things, like naming a podcast or a blog. So for example, I've wrote into it, provide some podcast name ideas for a marketing podcast that is entertaining and educational, like this one.
Right.
I haven't got those examples here.
But I mean, that would have been a great part of the podcast, Dan.
Yeah,
But thank you for teasing us with
I've
that.
got some other examples, but you can do like provide some names for a title of a blog that's about marketing, but written in an informal way.
Also, just in case people don't know, once you've written your initial prompt, you can then go further. So I was testing this out, and I said about writing titles for this podcast to try and think of ideas of what sort of episodes we could do. But then,
what kind of prompts did you do?
I said something like, please. I always say please. I don't know if that's weird or not. Please write 10 podcast episode titles that would be perfect for business owners to listen to, something like that. I started with that, but then it spits out some very generic, the sort of content we wouldn't produce, just like 10 ways to maximize your profits. And obviously we might talk about maximizing profits, but that title just seemed a bit like that's generic businessy. But then I said, oh, this is cringy. I said, can you make these titles edgier?
Oh God.
And then I said, can you make these titles less formal or something like that? And then I used a few prompts, and it started to emulate the sort of podcast titles we might want to. Obviously, that's cringy saying like edgier and less formal because we're such cool guys.
We're so edgy.
But you can see how you can kind of gradually get to a place that's more suited to what you're looking for.
It's funny you said about saying please, because I saw that I read an article, someone talking about this, that currently AI can't understand sentiment. So if you're being polite or not, if you're being rude, it can't understand that yet. But soon it will be able to. So it will give better answers and responses to the people that are polite to it.
So it might look at previous data and be like, Lloyd has always been so nice to us.
Yeah.
Let's really help
Like
him.
genuinely, I know that. This is how mental this technology is. It's crazy.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this podcast to add to your data, any AI tools,
we love you.
I really am a big fan of what you're doing. I'm very supportive. Please continue to support me.
Yeah, great. Other things that you can do, write video scripts or be the starting point to write video scripts. Some of our production team were testing this, and it's mental what it comes back with. Like, obviously it needs tweaking and it needs editing to be really good. But
do you know how I know that there's these emotional responses? Because as soon as you say that, my brain goes, oh yeah, they're going to be shit.
Oh, right. Because
honestly,
you write video scripts.
Yeah, I think, that's going to be rubbish though, isn't it? You can't use it for that. Clearly, that's just my bias and me thinking I'm good at
it's
writing.
It's not going to take your jobs, Lloyd.
Yeah.
It's your job.
You can see how it happens though. Don't use it for that shit.
Yeah. But like we say, don't just copy and paste what it spits out. It really does need editing and changing to improve it. Another thing, you can write blogs. For example, write a 1,000-word blog about the importance of using vertical video as part of your marketing strategy. Like, I even thought, here's a real specific example of this. The write-ups of our podcasts on our webpage, for each of these episodes, we have a webpage where we've got the full video, an intro, timestamps, and I thought, should we be adding in a blog post at the bottom of that to help with SEO that's like 1,000 words to do with the topic that we're talking about?
Could you give it the transcript from one of our podcasts of all the words we've said and say, write a blog post based on this podcast
Oh my God, you
episode?
actually probably could.
Because then it's like, It's using our actual words and what we've said and just changing the format rather than it.
Shit.
That could.
We should do that.
We've told everyone now, though.
Oh, man.
Now they're all going to do it.
Tay, can you make a note of that so we remember to do that? Thanks.
You remember we're still doing a podcast, right?
No, I know, but I just thought that's a brilliant idea. We should do that. Thanks, Tay. Yeah, so there's just a few kind of use cases. What I just want to do now is just give you a specific example of a response it gave, which just shows the power of this. So here's what I asked ChatGPT to do. So I asked ChatGPT to write a 200-word promotional introduction to a podcast called Business Anchors, hosted by two brothers, Dan and Lloyd, that is about business and marketing and is fun and entertaining rather than dry and boring. Which is this podcast, hopefully.
Hey, matter of opinion.
So, and again, this isn't perfect, but it's just, right, ready for this?
Yeah.
So, this is what it said. Welcome to Business Anchors Podcast, where brothers Dan and Lloyd share their knowledge and expertise in the world of business and marketing. This podcast offers a fresh and entertaining take on the subject, making it an enjoyable and informative listen. Whether you're a small business owner, an entrepreneur, or just someone with an interest in business and marketing, this podcast is for you. Dan and Lloyd have been in the business game for over a decade and have seen it all. They understand that running a business can be challenging, but they also know that it can be incredibly rewarding. Their goal is to help you navigate the world of business and marketing whilst also having a good time. On Business Anchors podcast, you'll hear Dan and Lloyd talk about a wide range of topics from the basics of marketing and branding to the latest trends in social media and e-commerce. They'll also share their personal stories and lessons learned along the way. This literally sounds like our podcast. One of the things that sets Business Anchors apart from other business podcasts is the dynamic between the brothers. They have a unique and entertaining chemistry that makes listening to the show a pleasure. They'll keep you laughing whilst also providing valuable information that you can use to grow your business. Tune in every week to hear Dan and Lloyd share their knowledge, insights, and experience on the Business Anchors podcast. How mental is that?
Yeah. See, what's crazy is
That is mental.
I think if one of our team wrote that intro, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, we want to tweak it. We want to give it some more personality. It sounds a bit generic at the moment.
That took 10 seconds to come back with.
I wouldn't say like, that's really rubbish and you need to
No,
go.
no.
It would be like, yeah, okay, that's okay.
It got the gist of it.
It's already producing like average. That's like an average generic intro, but pretty good.
Yeah.
Imagine how it's going to develop in the next few years.
This is the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The weird thing is, I do think it's going to be able to do better than humans can do.
Yeah.
And that's going to mean a lot of what we see as productive and useful and what we add value to is going to disappear. That's why I do think, I said about stuff people base their identity on is going to be worthless.
Yeah.
I do think there's going to be a bit of a mental health issue potentially of
People like, shit, my career's...
put their lives into this thing and then in the next few years it's going to be like completely worthless.
Yeah. I read an analogy that I'm going to completely muck up now because I'm rubbish at relaying stuff. But
Great. Really good intro to this part.
There was an analogy that was like the speed at which this technology grows. And it was like, think of Lake Michigan or like a big lake and lilies growing in that lake. And every time a lily pops up, a second one pops up as well. And it was like to fill half of that lake with those lilies, once second one pops up, then it times it by two, it would take 49 days to fill up half that lake. And then it would take 8 days to fill up the other half. And it just shows like it's similar. The analogy is like the speed at which this technology is improving. Like imagine in a few years, this AI is going to be like, I don't know, what's it going to be telling us to do?
This is why, obviously, people are going to think I'm absolutely mental saying this in public.
Yeah.
This is why I think we might actually be living in a simulation. This is the only conspiracy theory I think because if you think how quick this AI stuff is moving,
Oh shit!
in like 20 years, there's going to be the computing power. Like it'd be like, imagine the ChatGPT prompt: have someone have a conversation with me in the style of Dan Knowlton. And then, like,
yeah, you're on a podcast with an AI right
exactly.
now.
And then, I mean, graphics on PlayStation games are already
in 20
well
years
good.
it's going to be.
In 20 years, I'm going to be able to have this experience and think it's real.
And by the way, we're actually in a simulation, Lloyd.
Well, I think we are. Well, we might be. I think.
Yeah. Don't start blaming everything on the Matrix like Andy Tate, please.
I'm not one of those guys. That's the only conspiracy theory I genuinely think has got legs. We're in a simulation.
Mental.
People are going to hate me. More.
So one more thing, just before we get into the other AI technology, because that was a lot of ChatGPT, because that is the one that everyone's talking about and it's really impressive. Did you see Ryan Reynolds did an advert for Aviation Gin using
No.
ChatGPT?
No.
Okay. It was just really, I think, we come up with creative ads. He came up with a creative ad where on the video he said, instead of paying to do a massive, I just asked ChatGPT to write an ad in the style of Ryan Reynolds for Aviation Gin. And it came back and it was just a really good ad. And he talks about it, but you didn't see it, so there's nothing to talk about there.
There's other, I mean, I guess you might talk about these AI tools, but I've seen ones with like voice and things. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
it's weird because previously, if you wanted a famous actor to do a voiceover, you would have to pay lots of rights.
Yeah.
But now with its AI tools, you could say, do a voiceover that sounds like Ryan Reynolds. Is that, I don't know
Well,
where
this
legally, if it sounds like them, but it's not them, do you have to pay for the, do you see what I mean?
This is the scary part. I think there's going to be a lot of new types of crime happening. Like also because of what's it called? The Tom Cruise. What's it called? Where they put his face on? Deep fake. Sorry, that's it. Thanks, Tay. There, the tip of my tongue. Deep fake. Like imagine people being able to change CCTV video footage and just put someone else's face on someone who's doing something illegal, and you can't tell that it's. You know what I mean? I've got the evidence. Look on video there. Oh, and there was a mic there as well. Or there was something that picked up audio.
Yeah, I've got
and
this audio from
we've
a
checked,
phone
and
call.
it's the same.
It's Dan saying, "Oh yeah,
Let's
I
rob
did
'em."
this thing."
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? But at the same time, huge opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Scary, like the podcast title. Dan.
Exactly. So that was just, we're not going to go into that much detail with all of the other AI tools, but there's a number of other incredible AI tools that I discovered that people will be interested in. First of all, have you seen, well, I know you have because you did it, but you know the AI artwork tools?
Yes.
Just to give a quick backstory to what you did when you discovered it and what you can do, because you actually probably did this.
Lenser app?
Yeah,
and it
that's
had this thing. I just uploaded 10 photos of my face and then paid $4.99 or something, and you get 100 basically
How do you describe them?
mental pieces of artwork like based on you. Some of them look quite a lot like me. Some of them look like very athletic, much better looking version of me with much better hair and beard, and some of them are much worse versions of me. But again, like so a week before I discovered that app, if I was like, I want 100 weird images of me.
It looks like someone's painted them.
Like I would have had to pay thousands to commission artists, and then obviously, like again, these initial stages, just like the internet, there's kind of these gimmicky, funny ways of using it, and you think, well, that? Not many people will have a huge benefit from getting those images. It's kind of like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
This is cool. I'm not going to get a mural on my living room wall of one of the images of myself, but I think it just shows the potential. You know, there's going to be in advertising, it's going to be like, right, we want this artwork based on this, but it's a picture of Ryan Reynolds, and then 5 minutes later, you've got 100 options to choose from.
And there's just loads of really great AI artwork tools that you should try. It's so impressive. Another one, have you heard of this? GetRecut.com.
No.
It's an AI video editing tool that automatically cuts out the ums and ers and pauses in it. You know, like, an editing technique so that people stay engaged is to cut out the It just, you put it in, you press a button, and it finds them all and cuts them out, and then in your timeline, it
Tay, can you just make a note to sack all our editors? Thank you, mate. Cheers.
I mean, this is another example. Like, that's one small feature. This is why editors aren't going to lose their job today, because there's so much more creative input that happens to editing.
If that was the only
video
skill, cutting out ums and ers, it would be very simple.
Another one, building apps. There's an AI, like building apps, you'd need developers, you need to understand coding and software. Debuild.app is an AI tool that lets you easily build apps at the click of a button. You tell it what type of app you want and what functionality you want, and it just builds it.
You think this sort of thing, there's going to be so many shit apps, isn't there?
Oh, yeah,
and there's also going to be so many amazing ones that have been created really with not much effort.
Yeah. Another one, just a few last ones. Slides.ai. Oh, sorry, said that wrong. Slidesai.io. Slides
Old
AI.
MacDonald had a farm. Slides.ai.
Slidesai.io. Oh my God, I can't get it right. So this is really impressive again. Just look at their website. It shows you how to use it. You you put in a load of copy to do with something, you click a button, and it turns into a beautiful presentation.
Okay.
So, like, imagine you wrote an article and you want to turn that into a presentation to present to people with visuals and images and it broken down into different slides.
Yeah.
You just do that and you configure it to do it in a certain style and things, and then it just spits out a really cool presentation.
Wow. I think this could be, a lot of these tools could be really good if you're like in a more administrative role where it's like, I get given this, right, I have to repurpose this to this. I have to write a blog based on this, or oh, my boss has sent me this and now I have to change it into a presentation.
Yeah.
There's lots of really, it's really going to help people, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. And that's all my AI tools that I wanted to talk about.
Wow. Well, thank you, Dan. That was really informative.
I would say as a final thing, I really recommend just spending 10 minutes trying ChatGPT, because it's the easiest, lowest barrier to entry way to just see the power of this technology, because you can have a look in 5 minutes.
Start your journey to get ahead of the curve and at least understand what's going on. Why are you laughing at me? Did that sound cringy?
It sounded like you were saying an inspirational quote.
Oh. All right, put some motivational music behind this. Start your journey to get ahead of the curve, and you'll truly get what you want in life, meet your potential. Try ChatGPT.
Oh, that was fun. So yeah, anything else you want to add to the AI episode, Lloyd?
What I said earlier, I want to reiterate that you'll hear lots of people and read lots of articles and see on the news shortly how bad and good this is. And it's neither. Just understand that. You know, whenever you get to either side of these arguments, you always turn out to be wrong. So have an open mind. Just
remember, Lloyd's an AI expert now. So if anyone asks, you can change it on your LinkedIn and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to change it.
AI is.
I'll write a prompt for AI to change it. Yeah. Okay. That's really good. Thank you, Dan, for doing most of the work for that episode. That was really informative.
Good.
And I'll see you in your ears next week.
Callum, add this into the end of the podcast.
Dan, it's me, your brother Lloyd. You missed a cool AI tool that we haven't spoken about.
Tell me.
This one is called Stable Diffusion. And basically what this can do is it's absolutely revolutionizing VFX at the moment.
Tell me more.
I will. So a company I watch on YouTube quite a lot called Corridor Digital. Yeah. They're like a big VFX house, basically. And what they've done is they wanted to just like upgrade their workflow to because they make quite like stylized like YouTube sketches. And what they did was in this Stable Diffusion, you can literally just put an artistic style in. So for example, I was like, oh, I want Dan standing on top of a mountain, holding a sword, looking majestic, but in the style of like Vincent van Gogh painting, something like that.
I want that too.
It would generate that and it would change and it would make it look like it. It's
crazy,
absolutely insane. And what they've been doing now is using it for video. So they did a Christmas render challenge of like a scene. And basically what one of their artists did is he made like a cabin area, like a nice little wood fire, but he wanted it in like an 8-bit video game style thing. So he literally just
What, and you just do a prompt and say, do this in the 8-bit video style?
It's absolutely insane. He literally just put it in like, oh, I want this in the style of an 8-bit video game. And then it just generated it.
Yeah.
It just like put a filter over the top of the video saying it's an 8-bit thing. And then they did another thing. Have you seen the Spider-Verse film? Yeah. You know, it's like it was quite a new animation style. It was very cool. They wanted to make one where it brought all the Spider-Men in from cinema. So they literally just got clips from films of the Spider-Men being Spider-Man and just put, I want this in the style of the Spider-Verse. And they just made like an entire 4-minute short video out of it. It's absolutely
crazy.
Mad. It's like revolutionizing what can be done. So in the future, we could be like, oh, we need a video that looks
the style
like it's made in the 60s. And you can like, well, I'll just chuck it in Stable Diffusion and I can still film it nicely.
No, the AI will be doing that.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. I'm going to get replaced by a computer. That's why it's a good thing to say please, because when they control us, like you say, if we keep saying please, they'll remember that. And then I won't be cleaning up the robot waste or something.
Well, thanks, Tay. Thanks for that addition to the podcast.
No, it's not Tay, it's Lloyd, your brother.
Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you, Lloyd, with a different voice.
You're welcome.